Thank you so much. So yesterday we are done till in the previous session we are done till uh, match transformation, the base match transformation, and in today's session we will be talking about the management consoles. So management consoles are the administrative tools, and if you look at the screen, this will be the navigation for management consoles. So there are before we start with that, there are two types of management consoles that we'll be dealing with. Data services 4.x. From version 4.x, there will be two management consoles, two admin tools that we'll be dealing with. Right, thank you. So one is your data services management console, and the second one is our central management console. So we saw what we have to do in the central management console, registering our local and central repositories, and that's the major part that we'll be doing in the central management console. Let me take you there. So if you look at the navigation, it is Start, All Programs, SAP Business Intelligence, BI Platform 4, and you have Central Management Console. You just click on it and it opens through a web page. So both the administrative tools, they open through web page. And here, if you look at this one, the Central Management Console home page, you have data services here. And if you go to this data services, there you can maintain or add or refresh the repositories. So here we saw adding the local repositories, adding a non-secure central repository, and updating that to a secure central repository. These are the three different activities that we did from the management console, right? Central management console. So apart from that, there is one more step that we'll be doing as an administrator, is creating users and groups, right? So here, this is the generic process where we will be going and creating the users, or you can create group and set a particular authentication level, right? So when let us say, I'll show you my ID. So once I create this one, right, so it just takes me to the screen where I create my username, my password, and then I go to the user security, and here I set myself, like by clicking on add principals, I'll be adding different levels of authentication. Is that an administrator, or is that a normal user level administration? So you can map some users authentications to you, or you can map a particular group authentication to you. You can just add it to the right hand side and say add and assign, and once you do that, your principals will be added to your your ID, and then you can define a member of which group. Is that a member of a testers group, a member of a developers group, member of administrator group? So at the entire BO level, there will be different groups which will be categorized. So there will be like full power user group or semi-powered user group, single user group. So they will have a different level of authentications, and then you can also look at the account manager username and password for this. And once you are done with this, you can save and close. So this is how we create the users. And once we create the users here, the same user can be deployed into the data services management console as well. So these are the two admin activities that we'll be performing here in the central management console. And apart from this, there is another management console, that is our data services management console. So to log into our data services management console, the navigation is Start, All Programs, Data Services 4.2, and you have Data Services Management Console. So once you click on that, again it opens through a web page. And this is the start screen, Data Services Management Console. It is also called as DMC, Data Services Management Console. And if you look at the start page, it is totally divided into 6 categories. And most of the admin activities related to data services will be done here, not from the central management console. Though central management console came into picture from 4.x like 4.0 version of data services, but prior to that and even after that, major administrative activities are done with the data services management console. So we will be looking at most of the topics here, but some of them are again quite relevant to the real-time jobs, the web services, right? How to generate a WSDL, how to enable an access server on your system. So all these things will be looking at them in our next topic, which is real-time services. So real-time jobs and handling XML data, manipulating XML data, and real-time jobs are our next topics that we need to discuss. So once we are into that, we'll be looking at the administrative side of it. So if you look at this, manipulating the real-time, manipulating the XML data and real-time jobs. So how do we handle the transactional data, right? So how do we handle the XML data using data services? So we will be looking at these things and some options here in this management console we will cover when we are looking at that. So once this session on management console and the session on the real-time jobs is done, you can just cross-verify and let me know if any of the options are missing. So if you look at this one, this is divided into 6 areas, and first one is administrator. So this is a core admin tool where an administrator can log in through the web page and can handle the entire landscape, right? So per landscape will have a separate management console. So if it is a dev, we have a separate data services management console. If it is QA, we'll have a separate data services management console, and for prod we'll be having a separate data services management console. So from this page the administrator can log in and maintain the environment. So generally scheduling and all this different operations will not be doing on the developer and quality servers, so we'll be doing them on only the production environment. So if you look at the description here, it says manage your production environment including the batch job execution, real-time services, web services, adapters, instances, server groups, right, central and profiler repositories, and more. So this is a place, one place, the administrator is one place where you can manage the entire activities related to our data services. So if you click on the administrator, the different steps that we will be performing here. It's just taking a few seconds to refresh, right? So if you look at this, it is divided into sub areas again, status bar, batch, real-time, web services, SAP connections, adapters, server groups, right? So as an administrator, we'll be working on all these different areas, right? And again, management of the tool, right? So you can drill down to anyone's local repositories data store and you can change the credentials, then parameters, server configurations, access server, CMC connection. So I'll talk in more detail. So this is how your administrator look. We'll talk in more detail about that. The second one here is auto documentation. So this was the biggest pain area in all the projects. So as I can strongly say, so once your development is done, you have to create documentation and submit to the customer and say that this is why we created this and this is how, this is the technical step-by-step process. And now with the help of data services, you can overcome that. So this is a complete technical design document that will be generated by your data services as per your job. So view, analyze, and print graphical representation of all the objects as depicted in data services job, including their relationship, properties, and more. So it is not only the documentation, it also gives you the screenshots of your jobs, the relationship between the columns, relationship between one flow to another. So you will get the entire story flow here. Third one you see here is data validation. Enables the reliability on your target data based on the validation rules that you apply in your job. So when we are doing some validations, right, we did some validations on our data services. So, and we passed our data through that and we loaded that into our target system. Now, if you want to cross-check your target system's data based on the validation rules that you applied in data services, this is where we'll be doing the data validation rules. Right, next one is impact and lineage analysis. This is again one important area where we should be working on. Right, so once, let us say our development is completed and we are doing a code promotion to development to QA, and before doing that, one of the end users says that, okay, this table structure will undergo some changes because the same table is used in some other project, or this table will be deleted, you have to point to some other table. So if some source tables are deleted, right, or they go through some changes, or if some target tables needs to be added with some other additional columns, right, or this data, instead of loading into table A, it has to be loaded into table B. In those cases, right, so there is a possibility, like in both source and target, you can either go and delete the tables or modify the table structures. So in those cases, we cannot directly go and nod our head and say to the data owner or to the customer saying that, yeah, I will do that. But as a consultant, we should foresee what is the risk, right? So what is the impact, and if I delete this table, how many subsequent tables are fed from this one? So what is the impact? So if I do changes on my target table, so what are the different source tables that I have to take care of? So all this impact and lineage will be done by the tool. So it's just 3 clicks and you will see the impact and lineage. The next one is operational dashboards. This talks about the performance of your job server. So this dashboard is not related to your data, not related to any of your sorry. So this is not related to any of your system performance. Not related to your data or reports or something. This operational dashboard is corely related to your system performance. So if you have 10 users working on your environment and 10 people are running this job, the different jobs on this job server, so you will go and see what is the load that is put on this job server, how is the server getting executed, and what is the performance. So you see that in a dashboard where you can click on that dashboard, go to the jobs list of jobs that are running or that ran on this particular job server. Then again, you can go to a particular job and a data flow into that, and you can see like which portion of this job is taking time. So if it is in a risky situation, your server is in a risky situation, you can drill down to that and go and see like, okay, this job, and in this job, this portion of the job is running for quite a long time. So that's how your administrators or your project architects, they'll go and tell you like, hey, this particular flow in your job is taking a longer time, why don't you go and fine tune that? So that is how they will know. And the last one is the auto documentation for the error quality jobs. So if in case you are using any quality transformation, DQ transformation, we used one which is our base match. So if you use any quality transformation in your job, so the results that are exposed from your quality transformation will be saved as error data quality reports, right? View and export the reports of batch and real-time jobs such as job summaries and data quality transformation specific reports. So we can look at them from this option, right? So a fully formatted PDF report which talks about the quality transformation that you use, the percentage of match, the percentage of data that is not matched, the score that it is met, and all the different phases that you take your job through. So all these things will be shown there. So let's go with the administrator first. It manages your production environment, including job execution, services, web services, adapters, server groups, central and profiler repositories, and more. So we already worked on this area, right? So if you remember the secure central repository, so once we upgraded our central repository in the repository manager, once we upgraded that to a secure central repository in the repository manager, we re-registered that in our central management console. Here we went there and we re-registered our central repository in data service central management console, and once it is done, we came to the management, we expanded the central repositories, and here we expanded our central repository, and there we created the users and groups and we added them. Right, so we already worked on this one. I'll again walk you through that one more time. But the first start page that you see as an administrator here is your status page, the status of your landscape, right? So if I look at this, these are my local repositories, right? So LR1, LR Repo, HANA, then DM Repo, ERP, DM Yogesh, Vinay, Venkat, right? Training Feb, Training Jan, Training May, September, Partha, Murli. So all these are my local repositories that are present in my landscape. So as an administrator, so I can look at, so overview of the system status, if you look at this, so all these are my local repositories that are present in my production environment, right? Or my development environment. Based on the data services management console that you log in, this will be your list of repositories. And if your real-time services are enabled, so that is altogether a different story. How to enable your real-time services, how can you work with them, how do you set up the system to accept the real-time services, or how do you make data services accept the real-time services. We will look at them when we are talking about manipulating XML data and real-time jobs. But once that setup is done, right? So this will tell you that real-time services are enabled on your system. And this is your adapters. So these adapters, if you just quickly recall the presentation that we spoke about, the demo presentation, I'll just walk you through that one more time. So if you remember the architecture diagram, so your job server in turn communicates with your access servers, and access servers communicate with your real-time clients. So this access server enables us to communicate with the adapters, right? So this job server, through the job server, it goes through the access server, and from there it goes through the adapters. So these adapters are nothing but your adapters or your connectors to the external sources like your web services or the JSON files. So they will make your BODS system communicate with a not regular data. So flat files, database tables, ERP tables, these are all your regular data. But these adapters, they they kind of do additional plugins on your system that will enable you to communicate with SOAP files, REST files, JSON files, web services, and all. And the number of profiler repositories that are present in my environment. So this is my entire status page which talks about my system, right? So this data services management console can also be accessed from your data services designer. So I'll show you how. Right, so this is our data services designer page, and here you have an option called as data services management console. You can go and connect to the data services management console from here. So remember, we were talking about highly integrated configuration, right? So though there are multiple tools, you just feel like you're working on a single window, right? Single sign-ons, and so we also have a specific word for that. Let me just walk you. You have one runtime environment, and so it is one platform and one environment manage and administrate all the EIM tools, and there is also one specific word that I'm just looking for. So it maximizes the developer's productivity, right? Because it has a single interface to design. So this is what we are talking here. So everything is so highly integrated that from the data services designer, you can go and access everything that you want. So this is one option from where you can log into the data services console. The other one is you go to the tools in the menu bar and you go and click on data services management console. So these are the two ways in which we can connect to that. And if you look at the repositories, right? So LR underscore repo, some of them are in red and some of them are in green. So the basic identification as administrator that you need to understand looking at red and green color here is, so if a repository has some job executions which failed, so that repository will be identified by red. So we got some errors when we are executing our jobs. So those jobs failed and they are indicated by red. So it drags the admin attention to see that, okay, this guy is having some problems. So let me go and see if I can go and do something to resolve his issues. Because, if we don't have an access to the inbound directories and outbound directories, so though our job, everything is correct, when we execute the job, it will throw an access error file saying that you cannot access that particular folder, and please reach out to your administrator for specific permissions on that folder. So if that kind of errors were there, the admin will go and just click on your local repository. And once he clicks on your local repository, it will show all the jobs that are present in his local repository. I believe this, sorry, I believe this is not our local repository. Oops. So here, as you see, all the jobs that failed with an error, we will see them in red. Right, so yeah, this is our local repository, and this is also in red because there are some failures. And all this one state is green are successful executed jobs, and the ones that have a red symbol here or a red cross mark say that these are the jobs that ended with error. So as an admin, if I want to go and see what is the cause for the job to fail, right, I can go and see directly the error from here. So I can go and look at the trace, like the thing that I do in Data Services Designer. I can go and look at the trace, monitor, and error of the job. So this is my job and this is my error. I can directly go and click on the error, and this shows me the error, right? The same error that you see in your Data Services Designer, you can see from the admin, Data Services Management Console administrator. So which I mean to say that if you log in here as an administrator, there's no need for you to go to your team members desk, log into their local repository and go to their logs and see what is the error. So it is a primary key violation error, and you can go and just advise him to go and change his primary key on a query transmission, right? And since this, especially this data services management console is used to maintain the production environment, so generally when some audits go on, we don't expect our local repository to look red. So what an admin can do is he can select this particular job which failed, and he can say ignore error status or delete that from the execution list. If it is some test job which failed and we don't want it to be displayed in the list, so you can just ignore the status or delete that from the list, and you go back to the status and see your LR. If there are any other jobs that failed, that's fine, it will still be in red unless and until you go and ignore that error status, but if not, it turns to green. Right now, there's one failure which we ignored the status and now it turned to green. So as an admin, you also need to maintain the system in good color before you take it to the audit. Right, so because especially this is done for the production environment, so in production there will be only one local repository where the loader will be logging in and executing the jobs. So in those cases, you need to you will definitely have audits, especially for companies like pharma companies and some chemical manufacturing companies. They will have a number of audits that will be going through, and for them you need to keep the system ready. So if you look at this page, again, it's divided into two areas. One is your administrator drop down area, and the second one is your local repository LR. And this local repository LR is divided into three areas. Again, three subtabs. One is your status, the second one is your configuration, and the third one is your schedules. So I'll get back to configuration and schedules in a bit. But if you look at the status, it says the job execution status, right? So all the jobs that you select as per this drop down, so it's execution status, last execution of the jobs. So you can manipulate the view that is there by going and selecting a specific job, condition scripts and global variables, and I want to see the job execution in last 15 days. How many times did I run this job? You can go and do a specific job search. So when I will go and see this, so let us say there is a job that is scheduled to run every day, right? And this job, sometimes it is running and sometimes it is not. So if I want to go and see which days it ran and which days it did not, so what I will do, I'll go and select my particular job and I'll see last 15 days or I will say from first of that month to last of that month. I can click on search how many times this job got executed. Right, so or you can just switch to all batch jobs and just select the mode of display that you want you want it to be displayed here. So just remove this one and just click on search. So this is each and every job's last execution. When was it last executed? Right? So you can go to a particular job here and select that particular job execution in last 60 days, 15 days, 30 days. You can go and check this till 90 days. You can go and check. Just click on search and it will show you how many times this particular job is executed. So for this one to be displayed, your server logs should not be cleared, right? So generally after 90 days, we have a tendency to go and clear all the .dmp files that data services generates every time we execute a job. We have a tendency to go and clean them after 90 days. So generally after 90 days you will not have the logs. So we have to, cross check that within the time period and go and see that one. So this is our batch job, and if I just go to all jobs and last execution, just click on search, there is something else that we need to see. Right, you can do an execution search from a particular time period, from one start date to end date. So if you want to see if a job is executed in last 2 months from so and so date to today's date, so you can go and cross check that here, or last 60 days or last execution, when it was last executed. So you can do that one. The next things that you see here is you have a checkbox. The main reason why you have a checkbox here is you can select the job, and if it has a red color here, status as a failure, you can select the job and you can either ignore the error status if it is a test job, or you can delete it from the list, right? So I select one job. So flat file to flat file extraction, and if I just delete it, so that will not be displayed in my list once this page is refreshed. Flat file to flat file extraction is not there anymore, right? So as an administrator, one more reason for the checkbox is, if this job I ran from my data services designer, and for some reason this job is running for a longer period, right? For the time that it is generally supposed to run for 2 minutes, but it is running from last 20 minutes. And on projects, generally, uh, all the developers will not have a complete access to the tool, to the data services designer. They cannot kill their jobs from their data services designer. I'll show it to you. So how to kill a job? This is one interview question that they generally ask to cross-check how we know this subject. So if I'm executing the job and the job is already running, and if you have enough privileges on your system, so this is where you go and kill the job. Go to your monitor tab as the job is running for a longer period. Select that one, right click, and you can go and kill the job. So once you kill the job, you'll get an error message here saying that this job is killed by so and so person, right? You'll get this error message and this job will be killed. And you don't see a traffic post signal which says stop, but it is a traffic post signal with a cross mark on that one. This says this job is ended with an error, right? If you now go to your data services management console and just refresh this page, Right, so it is not showing up because it is not completed, we just killed it. But if you want to kill a particular job as an administrator, right, you can select the job. You can just go to their local repository, select that particular job from here, and you can just kill that job by clicking on abort. So if the job is still running, you'll get a message that the job is killed by the administrator. So because the job is not running currently, it says job is not running. But if you just run this job, and as it is running, you can just go to the status tab. I just clicked on the other tab to refresh the status tab. The job is running now, and you can select it and abort it from here. So that is saying job is not running, it's still running. So this is one more place from where you can go to your this one, batch jobs. So you can expand the batch here. You see all the list of repositories. You can go down and select your repository, and once you go and select your job, say last 6 days. Right, so it is shown here that on November 17th, as per the system's date, it is November 17th. Right, so one job is still running, right, end time is not specified, and one job is error, so you can just select that and abort that. Right, so this job is now killed. Right, you'll get this kind of message. So this is the reason why we have a checkbox here, so that you can go and select that particular job and run that or kill that. So based on your this thing. So you can also run your jobs from Data Services Management Console. I'll show it to you. Right. The second one that you see here is the state is green. You don't change that. This is your job name. You don't get to change this one. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, Rakesh, I have one question about the killing a job. For example, if source table contain 1,000 record and you are running a one job, and if it's running for a long time and in the middle you kill the job, so,
Yep.
it's posting the data into the target table. So when you kill the job, so what will happen with the target table? It will roll back the data which was uploaded to the target table, or we cannot do anything. For example, I'm saying like 1,000 record in the source table, and it was running for 15 minutes. So during that period, it's uploaded some data into a target table. But when you kill, so what will happen in the middle? So it will roll back from the target table. How does it work?
Yeah. Good question, Zafar. So rows per commit, we have 1,000 as the count, which means whenever our job pushes 1,000 records into the target table, so it will commit it to the target table, which means these records are getting inserted and committed. So if I say, so let us just modify your question. So let us say your source table has 10,000 records. So for every 1,000 records, it is going and pushing into the target table. And as the job is supposed to run for 5 minutes, and generally it will not take even 5 minutes, so 2 minutes, and your job, let us say it is running for 7 minutes now. So you definitely know that your job is running for a longer time, and now if you go and, as the job is still running, if you go and see select count of star from this table name on the database, you will see some of the records that get inserted. So if it is, it depends on what the number that you give here. So if you
Mm-hmm.
give 1,000, for every 1,000 it will be committed to the database. So, you kill the job. So let us say out of 10,000, some 3,000 are written into the target table. The 3,000 will be there. So that is the developer's responsibility. If you kill a job in the middle, so either you go and rerun that job again and you fine tune it and rerun it again, or you go to the database and you make sure that you delete the data or load the exact data into that one.
Okay.
So once we rerun the job, we will definitely, do an entire load onto the database.
Okay, so I got it. So that's mean in the target table we can concrete the table, right?
Yeah.
If we kill, right? And the second question is uh, like is there anything like administrator can get the alerts like which job is running for a long time? For example, it's just to see this screen, right? So
Mhm.
is there any something like we can get alert or something? No, there's no option, right?
There
So we
is
have to.
no specific thing, but as you were saying, like, this is an area where I can go and look at my duration. So let us say I have jobs that needs to run for, daily scheduled jobs. And this administration data services management console administrative tool is only for the product environments, which means I have my jobs already set up and they're running, they're scheduled. So I go and see, and daily I will be monitoring the screen. So, or at least I will have uh, a chart which talks like, at what time what job should be triggered, and what is the maximum duration that this job will run for. All the stats will be maintained till you reach the production environment. You will know like at what time this job has to be triggered, and what is the general data fetch on weekdays, on weekends, and what is the maximum runtime and minimum runtime of this job. So if in case you see some discrepancy there, right? So this is saying that it ran for 28 minutes, which is
Big
absolutely
time.
bad. It should not run for 28 minutes, which means my source system is not responding or something, or I applied some logic within my data flow and it is going through multiple loops. So something could be the reason. And this is where I see that this
Also, this
particular job
specifically this
is
job is taking too much time, so then we can look at it, right? So we can
exactly.
set a time, right? Okay.
So there is nothing as such that you will get some alerts, but this is where you can go and see that uh, this job is running for a longer time. But in data services, if you want that kind of alerts, it's see, why I opened this one is the presentation. So there are few words in the presentation which I thought like, okay, this guy is boasting in the beginning, but you can do a number of things. I'll show you what they are. So there will be one statement saying that it's a product and a platform on which all the new EM functionalities will be supported. Just give me a second. So there is one statement that we read when we are talking about this demo, right? It says it's a one product and a platform on, I think it's on the definition of data services. I'm bad at remembering the pages.
So will you share this document with us, or is just for?
I mean, it's on internet. I mean, if you want, I can share, but it's
Oh,
on internet.
oh,
It's a
okay.
free this one.
Oh, okay. It's not particularly created by you.
No, 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 not by me.
Oh,
We just
oh,
add our labels here.
oh,
Okay, so alright, somewhere I missed it. But yeah, it says that it's one platform and a product and a platform where you can do your required customization. So let us say my business user wants this, you can go and do that. So as you mentioned, if your job is supposed to run for a maximum time of 5 minutes, and if your job is running for more than that, you can, you can go and customize your job and set some alerts, and you can trigger email notifications to your distribution channel saying that, hey, this job is supposed to run for 5 minutes,
oh,
but it is running for 15
yeah,
minutes. You can
yeah.
set
That's
up
the
the
only.
email.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. Maybe there is something, right? So you
Yeah,
can find it. Oh,
you have to go to another level to do that. So there is some, execution this thing. So you need to set some alerts. So it can be done with a combination of, Windows scripts and your data services functions. You have to call all of them, and then you can trigger an email notification. That can be done.
okay.
I
So this.
haven't done that kind of a thing, but
uh
for this particular activity, because it is a production environment and you have scheduled jobs, there will be definitely a guy sitting in front of the screen and monitoring it on a daily basis, especially when the jobs are running.
Yeah.
So just in case if there is a failure, you can set an email notification. If there is successful completion of the job, you can set an email notification. But if a job is running for a longer period, you can see it from here. So there's no need for you to take that extra mile and do that all things and know that this job is running for a longer period. You can just look at here and understand that, okay, this job is running. So you first will go and kill that. Then look at the history of the execution of the job. So if it is running fine, it is common for this job to run for a longer period on Mondays, Tuesdays, or Wednesdays, whatever it is, the business load days.
Uh-huh.
And if it is fine, then we'll leave it. If not, we will, communicate that to the developer saying that this particular job is taking a longer period. Why don't you fine tune it and again give it back to us?
Okay. So data services management console is purely for database, like administrator purpose, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's a core administrator tool,
okay.
definitely yes, but there are some things that developers will also be working on this. I'll show you those areas
Okay.
as well.
And
So
what about the
once we
center
cover
management
this,
console? You should.
so that is as well an admin tool, but earlier everything is done here in data services management console. So in central management consoles we saw creation of users and adding the repositories, right?
Mhm.
So earlier versions, if you get a chance to look at data services 3.x, 3.0 or 3.2, uh, if you get a chance, or if you can Google the data services management console 3.2 image. So if you just expand the management here, you see something called as repositories, and under that you have something
Okay.
called as users. So you add your repositories here in 3.x and you create your users here in 3.x. Only those two are deployed to central management console in version 4.x. That's the only difference. So
Okay.
rest everything is same, and the entire data services administration is maintained. Just from the version 4.x, only two roles that we do here were deployed to central management console.
Okay. So they take out from here and they set.
Added it there, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right. 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 So this is the job name, and third one is the configuration in which you are running the job. So remember, we created data store configurations and system configurations when we are talking about the single user instance. And if I'm running my job, right, so I need to get an option here to choose on which configuration I have to run. So if it is dev, it will be running in dev environment, QA and prod. So a quick recall on this, we did it from here, tools and system configurations. This is where we created the system configuration, and when I execute the job at the runtime, I can go and switch my system configuration from dev to QA and QA to prod. So if I select a specific configuration and run my job, my data services management console will show me where I am running this particular job. So did I execute that in the prod environment, or was I doing any testing on a QA environment, or if there are any changes on this job. So I go and fine tune it. I run it on dev environment. Again, once I see the job is running fine, then I point it back to my production environment. Right, so this is the job server on which this job is running, and here you have the trace, monitor, error, and there is one more additional thing called as a performance monitor. So I'll take you to this, but trace, monitor and error are pretty much same as our data services designer. You have a trace, you have monitor, and you have error or warning. So whatever the message that you see here, you can see the same message from trace, monitor, error. There is something additional called as a performance monitor. So let us go and look at this one. Performance monitor for a job which ran for a longer period. So the performance job is not available for this job. Okay. So let me click on this one. So the logs are cleared, that's the problem. So this, again, it's a drill down approach, the performance monitor at the job level, then at the subsequent data flows, right? So this data flow, this data flow. So let me just go and look for condition scripts and global variables. If I can just look at, okay, 1 second. Okay, so we did not run this job. So it will be good if we can see, a job which has more number of data flows in that. Just showing that because it will show all the list of data flows that are present in the job, and per data flow it will show the start time and the end time and the duration that took for that particular data flow to complete. So let us say if my job took some 30 seconds, and if I just know that, okay, my job took 30 seconds to run, looking at this I understood that, okay, this took some 17 seconds to run, and I don't know which is causing or which particular data flow is running for a longer period. So what I can do, I can just go for a performance monitor, and here I can look, is that the actual data flow or the two sub data flows. So it says that the actual data flow is running for a longer period, right? So 14 seconds. Now if you click on that one, that first data flow, whichever it is running for a longer period. So remember the data transfer transformation we ran, it pushes the data system cache data into the persistent layer in flat file or database table. So we did it for flat file. So this is a detail level execution, right? So this took 2 seconds, this took 2 seconds, and the remaining executed in 0 seconds. This is the volume of data. So this is a kind of a justification. So what are the different types of steps that the system is doing? So initially when I executed the job, it took the data from here and it pushed the data into this one. a flat file 1234567 8.txt. And after that, in the sub data flow, it read the data from here. So here it is target, but here it became source, the same flat file. And then it went through a round robin split, then a mapping, a merge, and then it wrote it into the target table. So in this entire process, it took 2 seconds, and this is the volume of data. And at each step, this is the volume of data and the system cache that it is utilized. Now this is an entire justification, time versus memory. If your memory system cache is more, right? So the time should be less. If your system cache is less, right? So you just have 1 GB RAM or 2 GB RAM on your system, and you're trying to run huge volume of data, then the cache utilization, if it is more, then obviously your job execution time will increase, right? So if your cache is space is more, execution time is less. They are both are indirectly proportional to them. And if your cache is less, then your job execution. So you can do a comparison here with time versus cache, and also the data, and also the complexity it is going through. A step-by-step detailed process in the performance monitor tab. So this is where we see the performance of a particular job, and general start time and end time, and the duration for which this job ran. So this is what we can see in the batch job status, right? You can see search by a job name, last execution of the job, or last 15 days, how many times this particular job ran, or all executions of all the jobs from particular start date to end date. You can search on these things. And the second one, the reason why you search, I already told you. If you have a scheduled job, or you have a job that should run every weekly, to load the lookup information, and the end user is not happy with the data, but you are pulling your job is doing a right thing. You pull your daily jobs to extract the data from your source and load it into the target. So just in case you have some doubt on your lookup jobs, if they ran properly or not, so as an admin, you can go to this go to this one, select the job, and see last 30 days and see how many times this particular job is executed. Is it getting executed on a weekly basis or not? So I can go and do all the cross checks on the job execution and the batch job status, right? The second one we have here is batch job configurations. So this is the window where I can execute my job, I can schedule my job, I can look at the schedules of the job, or I can export this job to be run by a third-party tool like Autosys, right? So there is a third-party tool called Autosys which will trigger the jobs, right? So one limitation here is data services cannot run jobs in an event-based manner. So there are two mechanisms. One is your time-based manner, in which you can trigger a job. So let us say I have to trigger this job at 8 a.m. IST, right? So it's a time-based thing. The second one is an event-based thing, so which is triggered by an event. Event means, so let us say if I have to if I have a dependency chart, right? So I have to run some master data, and then only let me put it very simple. So job 1 loads data into some tables, and those tables are used in job 2. So what is my dependency? Unless and until this job 1 is done, I should not trigger the job 2. So let us say I schedule this job 1 at 8:30 and it's supposed to run in 30 minutes. And if I leave 10 minutes buffer and I schedule this job at 9:10. Right, so just in case for some reason, huge data volume or less available cache, for some reason, if this job gets extended into this time, so it is still running till 9:15, and if this job gets triggered, so it's still feeding the data. Job 1 is still creating the source tables for job 2. So in those cases, you can't go with a time-based schedule. So data services, I mean, in those cases, what you do, you go with an event. So event declares that the job 1 is completed and job 2 can start. So once this job is done, end of the job, you have something called as an event. That event triggers and gives an indication for job 2 to trigger. So this is done in SAP BW process chains. So this is a event-based triggering and mechanism is there in BW process chains, but this event-based trigger is not supported by data services. So keep this in mind. If somebody asks you, can I schedule my jobs in an event-based mechanism in data services? The answer is no. The tool doesn't support it, right? Data services only support time-based scheduling. I can't do an event-based scheduling. It is only a time-based scheduling that I can do in data services, right? And the second one, right? So what if the customer is insisting on an event-based scheduling? So you go with a tool called Autosys, and this one will create a job here in Autosys, and in job 1, okay, let me call it as a workflow. And in this workflow, I'll call my PODS job 1, then PODS job 2. So if I schedule it through Autosys, so Autosys job triggers, and this one will first go and run the job 1, and until and unless it is done, it will not go and trigger the job 2. It will wait till the job 1 is done, and once it is done, it goes to the next one, right? So people from Oracle background, we have something called as template scripts. So these templates will have multiple scripts and their file locations in this one. So as the template get triggered, so file 1 get triggered, it will go and execute the script 1, then it goes to file 2, it goes and executes the script 2, and then it goes to file 3, and it goes to the third one. So it's an order in which you go and execute them. So it is like till 1 it is done, then only it will go to the second one. So if you want an event-based scheduling option, you go and select your job and click on export execution command, and this is where it gets exported, right? So you just click on, if you want it to be exported with a specific system configuration, you can choose it, or export job server. If you have a separate job server, you want to export that one too, you can export this. So just click on export and it will show a file path where this file is getting exported. So if you look at this, this is my path in which it is exported. lr1.txt is my file name. So if I just sort it on date modified, so this is my file name, right? So this is the file that just got generated, and I will give this as an input for my Autosys job. So Autosys job will take my jobs one by one, and first it will run job 1, and then once it is done, it will go and do job 2. So in that case, it will look like my job is done in a event-based mechanism. But if somebody asks you if tool can do this, no. Autosys is a third-party tool. We cannot do that using data services. And the next question, so where do I go and schedule my jobs, right? So you can click on add schedule. In the configuration, batch job configuration, you can add your jobs to schedule, and you have to give schedule name. So it is generally daily, weekly, monthly, right? So for your easy understanding, right, you can give schedule name daily underscore batch underscore map, whatever it is, the job name. You just give some description, meaningful description, so that someone else looks at it and understands that, okay, this is a daily job and it is a batch job and it is running here. Any questions, Jafar?
Yeah, Rakesh, as a developer, we create the job, but administrator is responsible to schedule the jobs,
Yeah,
or
yeah, because let me tell you. So it depends on project to project because in some projects they'll have management console and dev, QA, and prod, right? Three environments they go and set up that. Uh, in some projects, they make it a rule that you do not execute your jobs from data services designer, and they will kind of set some limitations, restrictions on the users so that they cannot trigger their jobs there, and they have to trigger it from your data services management console only. And in some projects, data services management console will be present only in your production environment where your jobs will be scheduled, and the final schedule will be done by the admin. So if I say I have 5 developers in my job, right, in my project, so I can't let everyone go and schedule their own jobs, right? I want to see all their
actually,
jobs.
yeah, actually, the reason of my question is, for example, when you are working in a big landscape, right? So you finish in the development and then you put in the QA, right? After that, if it's finished, there is no problem. The QA put into the production, then there from there they start running, right? The jobs.
Yeah, so in prod I have only one local repository, which is my production local repository. I'll not have like D1, D2, D3 here in prod. There will be only one local repository and all my jobs will be present there. So if I want to schedule, I can just go ahead and go and schedule only from one
Yeah.
local
For
repository.
example, for here from here, so developer finish their job in the dev box, and
Hmm?
after that they put into QA, right? And after the testing is finished, then
Yeah. Hello?
oh, yeah, yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. The Excel sheet you were showing in the dev box. So
Hmm?
developer finish their job, and right after that they uh, release
Code
to the
promotion
QA, right?
guys.
Core promotion, right?
Yeah.
So it
Hmm.
go to the QA box, and they start checking everything, and after they are satisfied, then it goes to the production, right? So from QA, so it will go to the environment where the administrator can run these jobs, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Exactly. Because if you look at the prod, even I'll just take you quickly to the first page that we saw here, the home page. So click on the home here, home button, and it will take you to the home page. Manages your production environment, right? So it is basically for your prod environment, you'll get your data services management console from where you can go and schedule your jobs, execute your jobs. So just let us say all my jobs are scheduled right in my production environment, and I just need one job to run it. I just need to run it again to make sure that the right data set is updated. So in that case, what I will do, go to my data services management console, and as an admin, for only one job execution, I can't go and bug my developer or some other consultant tester to come and run this job for me and all these things. So what I will do, I'll just go to my batch job configuration, pick whatever the job that is required, all right, and I'll run it from here. So I just click on execute. I'll get back to add schedules. So I clicked on execute, and these are the same options that we see here. When I execute my job from here, so I have different options. The same options, I see them in my management console. Enable auditing, enable recovery, collect statistics for optimization, then select trace options, right? So rows, data flows, workflows, and all these things. And you click on execute, and you'll get a message saying that the job is successfully executed, right? So job started successfully. Click here to view the logs. So click here,
So it's doing
and it will
exactly the
take
same thing from which you were showing in the designer. So it's
exactly.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there
So
are
it ran now.
there are two ways we can run the execution. One is from the designer and one from the administration side, right?
Exactly. From the put it in a right way, it is from Data Services Management Console.
Oh, okay. So I
Because
got
from
it. So in
4.x, if you
development,
say
yeah, for example, in development box, if we have a client, right, where we have data, testing data, we do our jobs and we try to see how does it work. Once we are satisfied, then we promote to QA, and QA satisfied, then the admin can come and they run their jobs. So
Yeah.
it will, okay, okay, I got it.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Zafar. So from here I can go and run my job. I can, if the job is still running, I can go and look at my monitor, right? And I can go and look at my error. So the difference is in data services, this will be grayed out. If there is no error, this part will be grayed out. But here in management console, it will be active and it will say empty file received. That is an indicator that there is no error in your job, right? So this is how you can execute your jobs. Right. And the third one, so I'll just stop it with this because I started late. I thought I'll just do justification for today. So the third one is add schedule. So this is where you can add your schedules, and also you can do it from here. I'll show it to you once we do it from here. This is the right approach. You click on add schedule, select a job, right? You can switch between the projects. Sorry. So if you have more projects, you can go and switch between your projects. Select your specific project and then select your job and just say click on add schedule. Give a schedule name, right? And the job name or something. I'll just put XYZ here, right? And if you want to remove the schedule in the future, right, you can just keep it or deactivate it. It's just a click away, so there's no need for you to again go and delete it from the schedule list and all these things. You can just activate it or deactivate it. Then on which scheduler you want to run, there are two schedulers. So all these things are the pillar stones which talks like earlier in the previous version. They have two separate processes, one for business objects, enterprise, universe, and reporting, and the next one is for data services, right? So we will work on data services scheduler and select days for executing the job. So if I say days of a week, I can say job, if it is a weekly job, runs every Monday, I can select run Monday and I say recurring. So if you want it to be a daily job, go for days of the month, and this is one pain area. You have to select each and every day here, right? If you have a system holiday or a company holiday on 14th and you don't want your job to run on 14th, you can just ignore 14th and you select the rest of the days here. So please make sure that each and every day is selected if you are scheduling it on a daily basis. And if it's something is not selected, that is considered as a system holiday, right? And the next one that you see here is only once. So there is a requirement. Sometimes there can be a requirement that you run this job 3 times a day, morning, evening, and night. So to make sure that the appropriate data delta mechanisms, right? So appropriate data is there in the target. So you do use that using a table comparison, and you push that deltas into the target so that end of the day I don't have any lag. I have morning data, afternoon data, and also my evening data present in my target table. So in those cases you can run a job multiple times a day. So if it is only once a day, you should specify at what start time, hours, minutes, and seconds, and okay, not seconds though, but AM and PM. You can mention that one here if it is once a day. If it is multiple times a day, you have to select at what time it starts. You have to tell the start time, the duration of the job in minutes, so let us say it is 5 minutes, and the repeat interval. So if you want to run this job hourly once, you have to give this one as 60 minutes for this job to be repeated, right? If you want to run it once in 3 hours, you can give 180 minutes. You can select it to be once in a day or recurring multiple times a day. Then again, You get all the selection parameters, like you want to run it in dev, QA, or prod. Generally executed jobs will run in prod environment. So enable recovery is an option that you will check, especially when you're running a long job. So let us say I have a job which generally, it has some 20 data flows or 30 data flows, and this job run for 1 hour. So if a job fails, right, what you'll do, you'll fix that bug and you'll rerun the job. So what it will do, it will again start from the scratch and run for 1.5 hours, right? So just let us say that the previous job ran fine till 29th data flow, and the last data flow, it got some error and it failed, 30th data flow, right? So you don't need to run all the remaining 29 data flows which ran successfully. You just need to run the last one and complete. So in those cases, if you have huge number of data flows and you have a tendency to of the job to get failed in the last ones, you go and select enable recovery. So it will go and look at the previous logs and see, like, okay, all these 29 data flows are done. Then it will go and execute the last data flow, and just click on apply. And once you click on apply, you'll see your schedule done. So daily XYZ created and activated. So where you can go and see this one. So either you can click on the status and then click back on your repository, or you can expand this one and go to your repository. It will take you to the same screen. Batch job configurations. And here I have something called as schedules. So if you look at the schedule, daily XYZ is the job name, and that's the schedule name, this is the job name. I scheduled it to run on a production environment and it is active. So you want to deactivate this from here also, you can go and deactivate or activate or remove. Or if you want to add one more job to the schedule, this is second place from where you can add a job to your schedule. Click on add and it will take you to the add schedule window, right? So these are two places from where you can schedule your jobs. One is from your batch job configuration schedules, and the second one is from your add schedules. These are the two places. So repository schedules is the third tab, which will show how many jobs are scheduled on your repository, what to activate and what to deactivate and what to remove. So this is the third tab, repository schedules. You cannot go and add your schedules here. So you can either deactivate that or activate that or remove them. But if you want to add schedules, you can do that from batch job configuration job. Just keep this in mind. Some people will not go to that level to ask, but just to test your, hands-on on your system. If they want to, they can ask. So that's what I'm trying to say in interviews. So this is about your status and batch in your administrator rest. We will look at them tomorrow. So if you have any questions now, please let me know. I can answer them. All right, so yeah, just go through this recording, and if you have any questions, please let me know in our next session, which is tomorrow. So I promise I'll try to log in a bit early, because today when I started my system, I generally don't restart it, but when I started it, it has some Windows update and it took some 15 stupid minutes to update them. So that's the reason. Apologies for that. So we'll have our next session, and we'll continue discussing about the remaining options here in our next session. All right, till then, have a good night and good day. We'll catch up
Sir,
tomorrow. Yeah, Lakshmi, go ahead.
actually yesterday I was doing flat file to flat file extraction. So it was I have done the execution. It was successfully done everything. So when I was going back and seeing the target file, flat file target file, so initially in what format the data was, it was in the same way. I didn't understand what is that. Like
So
after
you did not.
executing the
Did you
yeah.
do any changes? So initially, let us say if it is your tab delimited file, right? So here, when you are creating your
Yes.
target flat file, so did you go and change the delimiters here? So if you can go and change this delimiter from tab to comma, or you can give a pipe delimiter, you'll see it in a different format. So generally, on a project level, why we do this flat file to flat file extraction is sometimes you physically will not have an access to a particular drive, right? So you need to copy the data from your FTP, then put it on your local drive, so that from there your data services can pick that job, pick that file. So data services will have an access to only one specific inbound directory from where you can read it. So just in case your data is present in some other location, you do a flat file to flat file extraction. Or if you want to apply clean the data, so some validations you need to do on the data. You want to do some profiling act. So initial days I was just trying to teach you how to read the data from a flat file and write it to the flat file. But with the knowledge that we acquired over these days, using platform transformations, using queries, you can use validations in between flat file and flat file. You can apply different business rules and you can transform the data. So in that case, you'll definitely see the change on the data. But if you are just doing a flat file to flat file without even a delimiter change, then the pattern will exactly be the same. You are just making a copy of that flat file one more time. So initial days, why I taught you to make you understand how we connect to a flat file, how we write a flat file using data services. But now, since we know all these transformations and how to use them, you better use these transformations between your flat file to flat file, apply some business rules, do a conversion, and then you go and look at the data, you'll definitely find the difference.
Okay, sir. And one more
Okay.
doubt, sir. Uh, sir, actually, uh, this flat file to flat file, no, sir. It's only for text document.
Yeah, it is for .txt and CSV files. You can read them from .txt files and CSV files there.
Okay, sir. And one more
So,
thing, for the first time it was like that, sir. And again, the same procedure I have done for the second time. I was practicing for the second time.
mhm.
So this time, for the second time, it was empty. The target completely it was empty. I didn't
Target file
understand
is
what it is.
empty.
So I didn't.
If your source file has data in it, so if you go to your source file
Yes, the source file has data in it. Source file
and
has
you
a
click
data.
on view data, so is that showing any data there?
No, sir, it was empty. I didn't understand what happened. Like
No,
in the
if
same
you
manner I
select
was.
1 minute, Lakshmi, if you select your source file, right click and click on view data, is that showing something like this or not? And the second time you are repeating the process.
I didn't check source file, sir, but I
Yeah.
was checking the target. It was empty, sir. But
Now,
while
if
I
your
was
source
selecting,
file is not having data, your target file will also not have the data. So just cross check that one, right? It's a basic fundamental thing. You read the data from your flat file and write to your flat file. If your source is not having any data, then definitely your target will also not have the data. So just cross check that one.
sir, you were saying that you will give me share with source files some of the sample source files you have. Can I get those, sir?
Yeah, I think I already did. I shared this folder to everyone, but just in case if I missed you, I'll send it to you again.
Okay, sir. Sir, did you prepare any interview questions, sir?
No. See, my sincere advice for each and everyone here, like practice more on the tool than go for an interview, because you might get a question in any area. So if you practice on that, you'll not ask me for any interview questions, because and I'll definitely walk you through that one, what kind of questions that we get in an interview, because the entire course I was saying that is your certification question, this is your interview question, there is a possibility that somebody can ask you a question in this area, please talk about these things in an interview. So I was telling you all these things. I was trying to focus more on these two areas, which will be helpful for you to get into your job pretty soon. So I did not prepare a document, because if I just prepare a document uh, and ask you to prepare, so there is a possibility that even somebody gives me a document and says like, these are the questions, go up and prepare. So I'll just by heart them and go for an interview, and then just in case if there are extra questions, then I'll come out and scold the person who gave me that paper saying that these are the questions. So no, let us not go by that. So prepare well on the system, practice well, and definitely you will have 90 answers for the 100 questions that the person is asking, and the other 10 I will provide. So go through these recordings
Okay.
one more time. Wherever I say this is an interview point, so you just make a note of them. You have all your questions available in each and every detail layer, and and also practice on the system that you yourself will have an answer for that. So just in case if you still think that you need some additional support, so Sandeep approached me in the beginning days that he had some interviews and he wants some quick questions. Jafar approached me in the beginning days that he has some interview and he just want a rough framework of the questions. So I definitely, I sent them some mails regarding that, which I'll be forwarding to the rest of the team as well. But uh, I just don't want you guys to limit to that, because this is a tool from anywhere a person can ask a question. So generally they ask their questions on their pipeline projects or their current projects, or if I could not resolve something in my project, I will go and ask the same question in an interview to see if somebody has a solution for that. It is tricky all the times. So not every time it is straight that they have a requirement and they will raise a uh, request in the job portal. At least sometimes, as per my knowledge, as per my experience, what I see, so they raise some interviews just to publicize their companies, word publicity, and the second one is if they have some issues, they can get experts coming into their interviews. They can ask them their questions, and if they have a solution for that, they'll go and apply that on the customer side. So it's not fair all the time. So just don't limit yourself to some set of questions. Practice end to end, and definitely, if you practice this end to end, you will tell me once you face an interview, you will tell me that I haven't missed any area. If you feel that I have missed some area, then definitely we'll have some sessions on that one too.
Okay, sir. Sir,
Okay.
one more question. Will you help me out with the CV, sir? How to prepare my CV?
Yep. Yep. We have so many sample CVs with me. I'll share them. You can just pick some points and put them in an order. Definitely, Lakshmi, that is definitely done. I've done that for all my previous folks, and I'll do that for you too. Not a problem.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. So, all right, guys. Good night and good day. We'll catch up again tomorrow and continue with the rest of the topics and data services management console. It's quite interesting tool. So we'll look at that in details and we'll try to understand or gain as much knowledge as we can. But yeah, there can be some areas which even I am not aware. So practice more so that you get into those areas, and we always have the portal.help.sap.com/PODS. So that's the place where you can get end-to-end documentation on data services. I repeat it. It's help.sap.com/PODS. So let's practice. Let's learn the first level, and if you want to get into the second and third level knowledge, so we can always welcome to do an R&D with me, right? So I'll be there, accessible every time, so we can go and do an R&D on the system. And right, if you find something new on data services, please do not hesitate to share it with me so that I can share it with the remaining batches, and it will be a good knowledge transfer program. Right, guys. Appreciate your time and thanks for joining today's session. And apologies for the delay, Jafar. Especially, I see your messages. You got so irritated. Sorry for that. We'll connect again tomorrow. Right. Good night and good day.